Captain Rhiannon Cole stood motionless on the bridge of the Earth spaceship Defiant, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched the massive alien vessel materialize before them. After 3 centuries of searching the stars, humanity had finally made contact. The Zephyrian ship hung in space like a living constellation, its biomechanical architecture defying human engineering principles. "Captain, their energy readings are impossible," Lieutenant Kaio Konjo reported from the science station, dark eyes wide with wonder. "They're operating on a scale we've only theorized about." Rhiannon squared her shoulders, 25 years of service settling like armor around her. Open communications, standard first contact protocols. The view screen shimmered to life, revealing a being that seemed to be composed of pure energy contained within an ethereal framework of light. The alien's form rippled and flowed like aurora borealis given consciousness. "I am Captain Rhiannon Cole of the Earth spaceship Defiant. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations and cultural exchange." The being's response came in perfect English, dripping with amusement. "How delightfully primitive. I am Overseer VYX of the Zephyrian Confluence. We've been observing your species' clumsy attempts at spaceflight for some time now." Rhiannon felt her crew tense around her but maintained her diplomatic composure. "We may be younger than your civilization, but we've made remarkable progress in quantum mechanics and dimensional physics." "Progress?" VYX's form flickered with what appeared to be laughter. "Your achievements are equivalent to a child stacking blocks and declaring themselves an architect. Your quantum drives are barely more sophisticated than striking rocks together." First Officer Taika Patel stepped forward, her voice steady despite the insult. "Perhaps we could share knowledge. Our approaches to physics might offer fresh perspectives." "Fresh perspectives?" More Zephyrians appeared on screen, their energy forms pulsing with mirth. "Your species still thinks in 3 dimensions. You're trapped in physical forms that decay and die. What could you possibly teach us?" For the next hour, the Zephyrians systematically dismantled every human achievement. They spoke of Earth's greatest scientists as if they were precocious pets, occasionally stumbling upon interesting tricks but ultimately insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe. While the aliens reveled in their superiority, Rhiannon noticed her science officer, Dr. Nadia Volkov, quietly running deep scans of the Zephyrian vessel. The Russian physicist's fingers flew across her console with practiced precision, gathering terabytes of data while their visitors were distracted by their own grandstanding. "We will permit your species limited access to our outer trading posts," VYX finally declared. "Consider it a gesture of cosmic charity. Perhaps in a few thousand years, you'll evolve enough to be worthy of real interaction. Do try not to damage anything with your crude technology." After the transmission ended, Rhiannon turned to her crew. "Report." Dr. Volkov's eyes sparkled with excitement despite their humiliation. "Captain, their arrogance made them careless. They never bothered to mask their basic operating principles. The data we gathered, there's something fascinating about their technological framework. They're using dimensional manipulation, yes, but there's an underlying pattern they seem to be completely blind to." "Explain," Rhiannon commanded, moving to the science station. "It's like they're so advanced, they've forgotten the foundations their technology is built upon. They've evolved past understanding their own basic principles. And in that evolutionary leap, they've missed something fundamental." First Officer Patel joined them, her expression thoughtful. "Like a master musician who's forgotten how to hear individual notes because they only think in complete symphonies." "Exactly," Volkov agreed. "And in their arrogance, they just handed us the key to understanding those individual notes. Captain, I need to get this data to Earth immediately. There's a physicist there, Dr. Amara Patel, who's been working on theoretical models that align perfectly with what we've discovered." Rhiannon studied the complex data stream scrolling across the screen. The Zephyrians thought humanity was playing with toys, but they just handed those supposedly primitive humans the blueprint to something revolutionary. Their contempt had made them careless, and that carelessness would prove to be their greatest mistake. Send everything to Earth, highest priority, maximum encryption, she ordered. The Zephyrians think we're primitive animals fumbling in the dark. Let's show them how dangerous it can be to underestimate humanity. As the Defiant began its journey home, Rhiannon gazed at the stars through the bridge viewport. The Zephyrians' mockery had stung, but they had given humanity something far more valuable than their respect. They had given them a challenge. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was rising to challenges. In a secret facility deep beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Amara Patel would soon receive a data packet that would change everything. The Zephyrians thought humans were playing with toys, but they would soon learn that sometimes the most profound discoveries come from seeing with fresh eyes, unbound by millennia of assumptions. Plot a course for Earth, maximum speed, Rhiannon ordered. We have work to do. As the Defiant's engines hummed to life, she allowed herself a small smile. The Zephyrians had dismissed humanity as primitive beings bound by physical limitations. They would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology, but in their ability to see possibilities where others saw only walls. The game was about to change, and the Zephyrians didn't even know they were playing. Dr. Amara Patel stood before the massive holographic display in the Himalayan research facility known as Project Prometheus, her dark eyes reflecting the dance of quantum equations that filled the air. The data from the ESS Defiant had arrived 3 months ago, and she hadn't slept properly since. Run the simulation again, she commanded, her voice echoing through the cavernous underground chamber. Focus on the dimensional resonance patterns in Section 7. The air shimmered as the facility's quantum computers processed the Zephyrian data once more. Around her, a team of Earth's brightest minds watched intently as mysterious patterns emerged in the mathematical chaos. There, Dr. Rashid Rahman pointed, his aged hand trembling with excitement. The pattern repeats, but they're completely blind to it. The Zephyrians evolved so far past this fundamental framework that they no longer see it. Amara nodded, her mind racing. They've built their entire civilization on seventh-dimensional manipulation, but they're missing the basic harmonic frequencies that make it possible. It's like they're speaking a language so advanced they've forgotten the alphabet it's built upon. The holographic display shifted, showing the internal workings of the Zephyrian vessel. Their technology was beautiful in its complexity, but Amara could now see the flaws in their approach. They'd achieved mastery over higher dimensions through brute force and evolutionary advancement, missing the elegant underlying principles that could make such manipulation far more efficient. Dr. Patel, a young physicist, called out, "The quantum resonance chamber is ready for the first test." Amara took a deep breath. After months of analysis and preparation, they were ready to attempt something unprecedented: controlled manipulation of seventh-dimensional space using their newly discovered principles. The resonance chamber sat in the center of the facility, a marvel of human engineering that looked deceptively simple compared to Zephyrian technology. Where the aliens used complex biomechanical systems to brute force their way through dimensional barriers, this device was designed to work in harmony with the universe's fundamental patterns. Begin power-up sequence, Amara ordered. Keep the initial test confined to a 1-meter cube of space. The chamber hummed to life, its crystalline structure beginning to glow with an inner light. Displays around the room showed readings that would have been impossible just months ago. The team watched in awe as space itself began to ripple within the designated test area. Energy efficiency is off the charts, Dr. Rahman reported, his voice barely containing his excitement. We're achieving seventh-dimensional manipulation with less than 1% of the power the Zephyrians use. Amara allowed herself a small smile. Because we're not fighting against the universe's natural patterns. We're working with them. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. The test cube began to pulse with impossible colors as reality itself seemed to bend around it. Containment field is holding, someone shouted over the chaos. But we're getting readings that don't make sense. Amara rushed to the main control panel, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. What she saw there made her breath catch in her throat. They hadn't just achieved seventh-dimensional manipulation, they discovered something the Zephyrians had never even imagined. "Shut it down," she ordered. "Shut it down now." As the chamber powered down and the alarms fell silent, the team gathered around their leader. Amara's hands were shaking, but her eyes blazed with determination. "Contact the Defense Council," she commanded. "What we've discovered here, it changes everything. The Zephyrians think they've mastered the higher dimensions, but they've been brute-forcing their way through the universe like a bull in a china shop. We found the key to something far more fundamental." Hours later, in a secure conference room deep within the facility, Amara stood before the holographic projections of Earth's military and scientific leadership. Captain Cole of the Defiant was present as well, her image transmitted from her ship currently patrolling the solar system's edge. "The Zephyrians have achieved their technological superiority through time and evolution," Amara explained. "But in doing so, they've become blind to the basic principles that make their technology possible. We've discovered what they forgot, the fundamental harmonic patterns that govern dimensional interactions." She brought up a display showing their test results. "With this knowledge, we can achieve in months what took them millennia. More importantly, we can do it better, more efficiently, and with greater control. How long until we can implement this technology?" Admiral Nguyen asked, his holographic form leaning forward with interest. "The principles are sound, but we need to scale up our tests. Give me 6 months, and we'll have a working prototype ready for installation on our ships." "But there's something else." Amara hesitated, then continued. "During our test, we discovered something unexpected. The 7th dimension isn't the end point the Zephyrians think it is. It's just the beginning." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just caught up to their arrogant visitors, they were about to surpass them. "The Zephyrians will be checking on us soon," Captain Cole reminded them. "They'll expect to find us still fumbling with our primitive technology." Admiral Nguyen's hologram smiled grimly. "Then let's give them exactly what they expect to see. Dr. Patel, you have your 6 months. Work fast, work smart, and work in absolute secrecy. When the Zephyrians return, we'll show them just how dangerous it is to underestimate humanity." As the meeting concluded, Amara returned to her lab, her mind already racing with calculations and possibilities. The Zephyrians had given humanity access to their trading posts out of pity, never imagining that their primitive cousins would use that access to revolutionize dimensional physics itself. The game was indeed changing, and humanity was about to rewrite the rules entirely. A year had passed since humanity's first contact with the Zephyrians, and the underground facility had transformed. What was once a simple research center now housed the most advanced technology ever created by human hands. The cavernous main chamber thrummed with energy as Dr. Amara Patel's team prepared for their most ambitious test yet. Dimensional harmonic drivers at full capacity, Lieutenant Okonjo reported from his station. After the Defiance encounter, he'd been reassigned to Project Prometheus, his expertise with Zephyrian technology proving invaluable. Pattern synchronization at optimal levels. The test chamber now occupied the heart of the facility, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with inner light. Unlike the crude prototypes of 6 months ago, this device represented the culmination of humanity's understanding of dimensional physics. "Begin final sequence," Amara commanded, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "All personnel, prepare for full dimensional shift." Warning klaxons sounded as power flowed through the chamber. The air itself seemed to ripple as reality bent around the test area. But unlike previous tests, there was no chaos, no unexpected readings, just the precise, controlled manipulation of spacetime itself. Suddenly, a holographic message flashed across every screen in the facility. Admiral Nguyen's face appeared, his expression grave. "Dr. Patel, we have a situation. The Zephyrians have returned, ahead of schedule. They're demanding an inspection of Earth's technological progress." Amara's heart raced, but her voice remained calm. "How long do we have?" "Their delegation will arrive in 48 hours. They're not pleased with reports from their trading posts about human activities. The Zephyrians had been watching, of course. They'd observed humans studying their technology, asking questions that should have been beyond their comprehension. What they didn't know was that every interaction, every glimpse of their superior technology, had fed into Project Prometheus. "We're ready," Amara declared, surprising even herself with her certainty. "The harmonic drive is stable. We can do more than just match their technology, we can show them what they've been missing all along." The Admiral's hologram nodded grimly. "The Defense Council is convening in 1 hour. Be prepared to demonstrate our progress. Nguyen out." As the transmission ended, Amara turned to her team. "Run full spectrum analysis on the latest test data. I want concrete proof that our approach to dimensional manipulation is more efficient than theirs." "Already done," Dr. Rahman called out, bringing up a complex series of calculations. "We're achieving stable 7th-dimensional access with just 0.3% of their energy expenditure. More importantly, our understanding of the harmonic patterns means we can do things they consider impossible." The next hours passed in a blur of activity. While the Zephyrian delegation approached Earth, humanity prepared to reveal just how far they'd come. But they had to be careful, show too much too soon, and they risked provoking a conflict they might not be ready for. In orbit above Earth, Captain Cole's Defiant had been retrofitted with the new technology, though from the outside, it appeared unchanged. 2 more ships of her class, the Intrepid and the Venture, stood ready, their crews trained in secret on the new systems. The Defense Council chamber was packed and Amara made her presentation. The Zephyrians evolved past understanding the fundamental patterns that make their technology possible, she explained, displaying complex mathematical models. But these patterns are like a universal language, one they've forgotten how to speak. We haven't just learned their language, we've discovered its underlying grammar. "And what happens when they realize how much we've achieved?" someone asked. Admiral Nguyen stepped forward. "They believe we're children playing with toys. Let them keep believing that, right until the moment we prove them wrong." The plan they developed was audacious. Earth would present a carefully crafted image of progress, enough to satisfy the Zephyrians' expectations of their primitive cousins, but nothing that would reveal their true capabilities. But even as they prepared their deception, signals came in from the outer solar system. The Zephyrian delegation wasn't coming alone. They'd brought a fleet. "They're scared," Captain Cole's hologram announced to the Council. "They've realized we're advancing faster than they expected. This isn't just an inspection, it's a show of force." Amara studied the sensor readings of the approaching fleet. The Zephyrian ships were magnificent, their biomechanical forms rippling with 7th-dimensional energy. But now she could see what they couldn't, the inefficiencies in their design, the brute force approach to dimensional manipulation that betrayed their fundamental misunderstanding. "Let them come," she said softly. "They think they're coming to put us in our place. Instead, they're about to learn that humanity has found its own path to the stars." As the council chamber emptied, Admiral Nguyen held Amara back. "Are you certain the harmonic drive will work under combat conditions? If we're wrong about this—" "We're not wrong," Amara interrupted. "The universe speaks in patterns, Admiral. The Zephyrians learn to shout their way through dimensions. We've learned to whisper, and in doing so, we've heard answers they never knew to listen for." In orbit, the Defiant and her sister ships moved into position, their new drives humming with potential. On Earth, Project Prometheus stood ready, its crystalline heart beating in perfect harmony with the universe's fundamental patterns. The stage was set. In less than 24 hours, the Zephyrians would arrive, expecting to find primitive beings still stumbling through their first steps into higher physics. Instead, they would discover that humanity had not only learned to walk but had found entirely new paths through the cosmos. The real question was, how would they react when they realized their supposed inferiors had surpassed them? The Zephyrian fleet emerged from higher dimensional space in a display of power that would have once left humanity in awe. 20 ships, each larger than Earth's largest city, their crystalline forms rippling with energy that distorted the very fabric of spacetime. But aboard the ESS Defiant, Captain Cole watched their arrival with carefully concealed confidence. "They're positioning themselves in a containment pattern," First Officer Patel reported, studying the tactical display. "They're not even trying to hide their intentions." "Let them think they have us surrounded," Cole replied calmly. "Status of the harmonic drive? Operating at optimal efficiency, Captain. They haven't detected anything unusual about our systems." The main viewscreen activated without warning, revealing Overseer VYX's energy form, now tinged with what appeared to be irritation. "Greetings, primitive ones. We have observed concerning activities at our trading posts. Your species seems to be exceeding its appropriate developmental pace." Captain Cole stood, her posture relaxed despite the implicit threat. "Overseer VYX, we've simply been making use of the opportunities you so generously provided." "Is that not what you intended? Your kind studies technology far beyond your comprehension," another Zephyrian official interrupted. "It is dangerous to allow children to play with forces they cannot understand. For the safety of this sector, we must restrict your access to advanced technologies." In the Himalayan facility, Dr. Amara Patel watched the exchange through a secure feed, her team ready to activate their planetary defense grid at a moment's notice. The grid wasn't what the Zephyrians would expect, no crude energy shields or weapon platforms. Instead, they had woven a subtle network of harmonic resonators throughout Earth's orbit, invisible to conventional sensors. "Your concern is noted," Cole was saying, her voice diplomatic. "Perhaps a demonstration of our current capabilities would ease your minds." The Zephyrian's energy forms flickered with what might have been amusement. "Very well. Show us what you believe you have learned." Cole nodded to her crew. "Initiate standard maneuvers. Nothing fancy." The Defiant began a series of basic space exercises, deliberately keeping to movements that would appear properly primitive to their advanced visitors. But as they maneuvered, subtle changes were taking place in the fabric of space around them. "They're scanning us extensively," Lieutenant Okonjo reported from his station on Earth. "But they're only seeing what we want them to see." The demonstration continued for several minutes before VYX interrupted. "Enough. Your progress, while noteworthy for such a young species, remains within acceptable parameters. However, we have detected unauthorized attempts to analyze our seventh-dimensional technology. This cannot be permitted." The Zephyrian fleet began to move, their massive ships forming a tighter pattern around Earth. "For your own protection, and the stability of this sector, we will be establishing a quarantine. Your species will be restricted to this solar system until you have shown sufficient maturity." In the facility, Amara looked to Admiral Nguyen, who nodded grimly. It was time. "Overseer VYX, Cole said, her voice carrying a new edge of authority. "Before you proceed with your quarantine, we have a demonstration of our own. One that might change your perspective on humanity's capabilities." "Oh." VYX's form rippled with condescension. "And what could primitives like you possibly show us about higher dimensional physics?" Cole smiled. "Lieutenant, activate the harmonic drive. Full capacity." The space around the Defiant suddenly shifted, but not in the brute force way the Zephyrians manipulated dimensions. Instead, reality seemed to flow like water, responding to patterns so fundamental that the aliens had forgotten they existed. "Impossible." VYX's form flared with shock as their sensors registered what was happening. "You cannot, this is beyond your level of development." The Defiant moved through space in ways that should have required massive energy expenditure, yet their power readings remained barely above idle. Around Earth, the harmonic defense grid activated, creating a dimensional resonance that made the planet itself virtually untouchable. "How?" demanded one of the Zephyrian officials. "Your species was barely capable of basic space travel a year ago. You showed us your mastery of the seventh dimension," Cole replied, "but in your evolutionary advancement, you forgot the basic patterns that make it possible. We didn't try to copy your technology, we found our own path. Amara's voice came through the comm system, addressing the Zephyrians directly. Your civilization achieved dimensional manipulation through millennia of development. You force reality to bend to your will. We learned to ask it nicely. To demonstrate, the Defiant executed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible, each movement requiring less energy than the Zephyrians used to power their basic systems. The harmony of their approach was elegant, efficient, and completely beyond anything the aliens had conceived. This is a deception, VYX declared, but uncertainty had crept into their voice. No primitive species could. Could what? Cole interrupted. Could see patterns you've forgotten. Could find a better way to work with the universe rather than against it. Your arrogance blinded you to possibilities that were obvious to us precisely because we were, as you put it, primitive. The Zephyrian fleet's formation had begun to waver, their confidence shaken by this display of capabilities they hadn't thought possible for centuries to come. You thought humanity needed to be contained, Admiral Nguyen's voice joined the conversation. But while you were busy looking down on us, we were looking forward. The question now, Overseer VYX, is whether your civilization is mature enough to accept that you might have something to learn from us. As the Defiant hung in space, surrounded by the suddenly uncertain Zephyrian fleet, the balance of power in the galaxy was shifting. Humanity hadn't just caught up to their would-be oppressors, they had charted an entirely new course through the cosmos. And this was only the beginning. The week following humanity's demonstration of their harmonic drive technology transformed the relationship between Earth and the Zephyrian confluence. The massive alien fleet that had arrived to quarantine humanity now hovered in Earth orbit, their purpose entirely changed. In the grand conference chamber of the Himalayan facility, Overseer VYX's energy form flickered with an emotion that might have been humility, something no human had ever expected to see from a Zephyrian. In all our millennia of existence, VYX addressed the assembled human and Zephyrian delegations, we never conceived that there could be a more elegant approach to dimensional manipulation. We evolved past the need to understand the basic patterns, and in doing so, we became blind to profound truths about the universe. Dr. Amara Patel stood at the presentation podium, displaying the mathematical models that had revolutionized humanity's understanding of physics. The patterns were always there, she explained. They're written into the very fabric of reality. We simply had the advantage of fresh eyes and the humility to question everything. The Zephyrian scientists present showed particular interest in the harmonic resonance equations. Their energy forms pulsed with excitement as they recognized fundamental truths they had forgotten eons ago. Your approach requires less than 1% of our standard energy expenditure, one Zephyrian scientist noted, their form rippling with amazement. And you achieved this in months, not millennia. Captain Cole, standing with Admiral Nguyen at the back of the chamber, allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes the student can become the teacher, she murmured. But the most profound revelations were yet to come. Dr. Rahman stepped forward, bringing up a new set of calculations that made even the Zephyrian's energy forms freeze in shock. The seventh dimension isn't a boundary, he explained. It's a doorway. Your civilization has been treating it as the ultimate achievement, but we've discovered it's merely a transition point to something far more extraordinary. The chamber erupted in discussion as Amara demonstrated their theoretical models for transcending seventh-dimensional space entirely. The Zephyrians, who had thought themselves masters of the universe, found themselves faced with possibilities they had never imagined. We propose a joint initiative, Admiral Nguyen announced, stepping forward. Humanity's fresh perspective combined with Zephyrian experience. Together, we could explore realms of existence neither of our species could reach alone. Overseer VYX's form shifted through various energy states before stabilizing. You offer this collaboration freely? Even after our attempts to contain your species? That's the difference between our approaches, Amara replied. You seek to control the universe. We seek to understand it. The patterns we've discovered suggest that there's room for both perspectives, if we work in harmony. The agreement that emerged from those discussions would reshape the galaxy. The Zephyrian confluence, humbled by humanity's achievements, abandoned their position of superiority. Instead, they embraced a partnership that would combine their evolutionary advancement with humanity's innovative understanding of universal harmonics. 6 months later, the first joint human-Zephyrian expedition prepared to attempt something unprecedented, a controlled transcendence beyond the seventh dimension. The ESS Defiant, now retrofitted with a combination of human harmonic technology and Zephyrian biomechanical systems, stood ready to make history again. All systems show harmonic resonance at optimal levels, Lieutenant Okonjo reported from his station, now working alongside a Zephyrian technical advisor whose energy form pulsed in agreement. Captain Cole sat in her command chair, Overseer VYX's energy form hovering beside her in a symbolic display of cooperation. History will remember this moment, VYX observed. When two species learn that true advancement comes not from superiority, but from understanding. Initiate dimensional transcendence sequence, Cole commanded. Let's see what lies beyond the veil. As the Defiant's harmonic drive engaged, reality itself seemed to sing around them. The ship didn't tear through dimensions like traditional Zephyrian vessels, it flowed through them like water finding its natural course. The patterns that humanity had discovered guided them true, leading them towards something greater than either civilization had achieved alone. In that moment, as the ship crossed boundaries that had once seemed immutable, both humans and Zephyrians understood a fundamental truth: the universe wasn't meant to be conquered, but to be explored. True advancement came not from forcing reality to bend to one's will, but from learning to move in harmony with its deepest patterns. The Defiant vanished in a display of mathematical perfection, carrying with it the combined hopes and dreams of two civilizations that had learned perhaps the most important lesson of all, that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from looking down on others, but from looking up at the stars together. And somewhere, in dimensions beyond human comprehension, the universe itself seemed to smile at the harmony of it all.